You're now watching the Danny Mac Podcast on the Bet Rivers Network.
Thanks for giving me some time on the Danny Mac Podcast on the Bet Rivers Podcast Network. Week 12 is now in the books. Thank God we don't have to relive any of it. Whether it was the Giants and Patriots exploding for 17 points on Sunday, or the Bears and Vikings going 3 full hours last night to treat America to 1 touchdown. But hey, no pee in the Cheerios, Mac. Give Matt Eberflus the benefit of the doubt. The Bears head coach finally knows what it's like to beat a divisional opponent, and he'll get another chance at it in 12 days when the Bears take on the Lions again after their bye week. I'd love to give you a ton of reasons why I was inspired by the Bears last night, but I'd be full of shit if I did, because offensively, that's about as impotent as those good numbers ever can get. The high completion percentage of Justin Fields' passes, because he's throwing everything horizontally. Luke Getsy last night rarely giving Fields an opportunity to stretch the defense. When they did late in the game, it was a 36-yard bullet Fields threw to DJ Moore that set up the game winner from Cairo Santos, Mr. Reliable, who sullied a 9-minute drive on the first possession of the game for the Bears by pushing a field goal wide right just a little bit. I thought the Bears' offense was bad last night. I cannot give Justin Fields a ton of credit for a comeback win, that he was the reason they had to come back, you see. He doesn't protect the ball. This was the Denver game all over again when Fields coughed it up. Jonathan Cooper, a teammate of Fields at Ohio State, with the strip sack and the return for a touchdown. Why the Bears lost one of those games early in the season they should have won. Well, they don't take care of the ball. Fields doesn't take care of the ball, and they pull off what no one's done before in the Super Bowl era. Go on the road, not score a touchdown, lose 2 fumbles or more, have 75 yards in penalties or more, and come away with a win. I don't know who keeps the list of those criteria. It doesn't sound like that would be a fun list. It doesn't sound like it would involve much time, because the Bears were the first team to do it. And these penalties, the pre-snap penalties, just aren't going away. You know, when the Vikings said no, they declined several. The Bears had 8 penalties called on them in the first half alone, but the Vikings didn't accept all of them. Man, this Bears offense is woeful, and I like what Cole Kmet has become. I've seen enough before of Fields before the game against the Vikings. Don't need any more, but if you need more proof, he turns the ball away, turns the ball over at the most inopportune times. He does it consistently, and it's time to look for the next guy, don't you think? Haven't you seen enough? Man, what an effort made by the Bears defense to force young Joshua Dobbs into all kinds of nightmares last night. The tip drill looming large for the Bears. Interceptions from Brisker and from Gordon and from Edwards, all on the tip. And Jalen Johnson got his pick on turning and stretching for the ball, and this time he caught it. He should have had a pick 6 for the second straight week against the Vikings, but he didn't catch the ball. That's the first thing you got to do before you take it into the end zone. I want to let you know you can get extra value this football season with Bet Rivers Squares. Win up to $10,000 in bonus money. Bet $10 in same-game parlays with the Squares icon to earn a square. This past weekend in the NFL was awful. There were some really terrible football games. There are some terrible quarterbacks who are forced to start right now. When I say terrible, I mean by NFL standards. Some of these guys did very nice things at the amateur level, and maybe they have had a moment or two as pros where they did a few things right. But as the schedule winds down here, and we look at more and more at the backups getting opportunities to play, it's not an easy league to watch right now. God, there were some brutal games. The Patriots and Giants, the Titans were 2 of 14 on third down. I mean, these teams just don't have any semblance of offense. And one of them is a playoff team right now. The Pittsburgh Steelers look like they're going to the postseason. Lots of luck with Kenny Pickett or Mitch Trubisky, whoever it is. That team can't throw the football either. And Fields is right there with the bad. He is. As exciting as he can be from time to time, he doesn't protect the football. And the Vikings were going after it. Danielle Hunter has vexed him before. He has been a thorn in the Bears' side since he came into the league, and he had one of the 2 strips on the Bears quarterback last night. Josh Metellus, number 44, the 3rd or 4th year guy out of Michigan, the safety, who was all over the field last night. He got Fields on the second fumble after a big gain out near midfield, and the Bears cough it up right after the touchdown pass from Dobbs to T.J. Hawkinson. So with 3.5 minutes or so left in the game, it looked like the Bears were going to come home with nothing. It looked like a 10-9 finish. But Fields throws that strike to DJ Moore, who is hurting after the win last night. He's banged up. He was shown wincing on the sidelines several times last night, including after that big play. That sets the table for the heroics of Cairo Santos. So with the Bears now hitting the bye with a record of 4-8, let's take a look at those 4 wins. They beat Minnesota, who did not have their starting quarterback. Actually, the Vikings were no worse than they were with Cousins. From an interception standpoint, they were, obviously, because Dobbs threw 4 of them in Monday night's loss. But on third down, the Vikings were 2 of 9. They were 2 of 13 when Cousins was their quarterback against the Bears in a game the Bears just could not, no matter how much they tried to win that game, they just refused it. They just, the Vikings gifted them and the Bears just said no. The Bears didn't want that. So the Bears have beaten the Vikings, and they beat the Panthers, who fired their head coach, Frank Reich, Monday after a 1-10 start. You know, I hate to be the I told you so guy, but I told you so on Frank Reich. When they named him the head coach, my tweet was immediately, and the Panthers are on the clock for 2024. That sure looks like that's coming to fruition. So Reich is gone. The Bears beat him. They beat Josh McDaniels earlier in the year. You remember that Raiders outfit that came to Soldier Field with Brian Hoyer at quarterback and a Raiders team that was not playing hard and had the hands on the hips all afternoon. Just didn't look like it wanted to be anywhere near a football field. So that is that's a feather in the cap of the Bears headmaster. And don't forget they beat Ron Rivera in the Washington Commanders to get it started this year on Thursday Night Football. I think that was in week 5 or week 6 when the Bears won that game 40-20. Now, Jack Del Rio since has been fired by the Commanders. So lose to the Bears, lose your job. Kevin O'Connell, watch your step today at the Vikings facility. And if you want to go back last year to look at the Eberflus wins, if you want to do the tail of the tape on Matt Eberflus, it doesn't take all day to look at his 7 career victories. You can go to opening day last year in the 22 season when they beat San Francisco on a rainy day at Soldier Field. Trey Lance was the quarterback for the 49ers that day. He got hurt, and Jimmy Garoppolo came on in relief, but Kyle Shanahan opening last season with Lance at his number 1. They also beat the Houston Texans last year, and the Texans were kind enough to do the Bears a favor and get them the number 1 pick late in the year. So they did Eberflus 2 favors. The Bears were 2-1. I was reminded by Sam Michael. At the beginning of last football season, they were 2-1 before the tumble came, and the only other win of the season came against New England. So I guess if Matt Eberflus doesn't win another game in his life as a head coach, he can say he beat the GOAT, Bill Belichick, during the 2022 season when his Bears went 3-14, and one of those wins was against the greatest coach of all time. So he can do that. He can tell his grandkids that if he so desires. I would love to see the Bears get after the passer regularly the way they did last night. They were really good, and Montez Sweat is where it started. I thought he was good last night. I thought Gervon Dexter got better penetrations than he had been getting. I'm waiting for these first-year players, other than the corner, Tyreek Stevenson, who wasn't available last night, and the Bears did miss him. I'm waiting to see more of these first-year guys, Pickens and Dexter, make big plays. I'm waiting for Ngakoue to show up and earn that free agent deal he picked up in the offseason. This will be his one-hit wonder with the Bears. He'll find a new taker next year. But the Bears were improved from a pass rush standpoint, even though they only got a couple of sacks. They harassed Dobbs much of the night. And the Vikings did the same, but the Bears were throwing the ball horizontally, so it didn't matter. Everything is to the side. Everything is short. And have you had enough of watching Fields throw the ball into the chest of a lineman who has already left the ground? He's up in the air. He's covering 8 or 9 feet from the ground to the top of his fingertips, and Fields throws it right between his numbers after the guy's jumped. Throws it right off of, was it Wonnum, number 98? You sound like Jim Irwin, the former Packers announcer. Wonnum is, they got 98 and 99 in Vikings colors, and he's throwing it right in the middle of 98. You can't do that. He does that a lot. He's lucky he didn't have one of those taken in on him last night. Fields just doesn't protect the ball well enough. And I'm ready to see Roschon Johnson break a tackle in the open field a little bit more than he has. I had high expectations with this guy, about as high as you can have for a running back who wasn't even a starter in college and was drafted in the 4th round. But that seems to be the trend these days. You're not seeing teams taking running backs in the 1st and 2nd rounds. You figure you can just do it by committee by getting guys in the middle rounds, and that's what the Bears had in mind with Johnson. He is clueless in pass protection. He almost got Fields killed last night. You got to put your pads on the guy, man. Don't be such a Ivan Pace Jr. is a much larger, more physical man, number 40 on the Vikings. But you got to get your face in there. You got to get nasty with him. You got to hit him. Be shoving him. He's just awful in protection. And he doesn't break tackles. I'm waiting to see him juke a guy or run away from a guy. I'm waiting to see little glimpses of him as a special player, and he's reached serviceable. That's about as high as the bar. That's about high grade as I can give him. I had higher expectations. I wanted these rookies to have good seasons. Tyreek Stevenson didn't play last night. He's probably been their best rookie this year. Tyler Scott, we're still waiting to see him make consistent contributions, as well as the other defensive linemen I mentioned. In summation, it is the bye week. What in the world will you do to survive a Sunday, a whole weekend with no Bears this coming? I think you'll manage to do just fine. I think you will find some other NFL teams to settle upon, as this league is just continuing to get more interesting. And it's not always a good interesting. I mentioned how bad the quarterback play is around the league. It really was a pretty rough week. There were some points scored by the usual suspects, teams like Dallas, who are going to put points on the board. The Chiefs had a nice offensive game against the Raiders this past week, but there's a lot of spinning of wheels this past week. The Philly Buffalo game was good. That's pretty good. That's about as good as it gets in late November, and hopefully we'll have a few of those to save us the rest of the way, because there certainly is an ample selection of trash from which to choose on Sunday. I cannot defend this NFL as ardently as I like to, as vociferously as I often am. It's not been a good year for this league. In the last few weeks, it really has suffered. Now, every week we find something that drops our jaws. There will be a Tyreek Hill touchdown run that changes a game for the Dolphins, or a TJ Watt strip sack that changes a game for the Pittsburgh Steelers. There's always something special happening. But on balance, the last month has really been a tough watch in this NFL. The quarterbacks are not good. And you might have heard Tom Brady talk about it recently. Very emotionally for Tom Brady. Doesn't like the player development, doesn't like the coaching. Well, Tom Brady walked away from the game. He's the best who ever did it. You have some other guys who aren't playing this year. Aaron Rodgers, hurt in the Jets opener, done for the year. Some think he's probably well past his best days anyway. Russell Wilson having a little bit of a renaissance year. Maybe he's going to wind up earning that money with the Denver Broncos after a real rough start last year under Nathaniel Hackett, and a real rough start this year, frankly, under Sean Payton. But they seemingly have got that thing right in Denver, at least for the short term. But there are not a lot of exciting quarterbacks to watch in this league. You got Tua. You've got Mahomes. You've got Josh Allen when he's not throwing the ball to the defense. He's always done that, by the way. It's not new. He throws a lot of touchdowns. He throws a lot of interceptions. He's tops in both in the last 5 years. You don't have Justin Herbert to wow you, because his team is fading quickly. The Chargers muscling all of one touchdown out of this past Sunday's date. It's bad. The quarterbacking is bad, but we're going to see special things this weekend, because there will be teams that show up and play defense too, right? Give me the Baltimore Ravens. Give me Patrick Queen, number 6, or Roquan Smith. Let me watch those Ravens go at it. Maybe I can adopt them. I still have the golf shirt. I was given to me by the agent who represents John Harbaugh. Ooh, there's an I'm happy for you. You know the agent of John Harbaugh, and he gave you a Ravens golf shirt? We're happy for you. Yeah. I'll be back in a couple of days with more of the games people play. And I hope you have a good middle of your week as we look forward to Week 13 in the NFL and having a week without the Bears, having the Big Ten title game. I will talk about that in my next podcast with you. And I want to thank Adam Delavitt, who is Baby Capone. He's the guy who makes everything happen at the Bet Rivers Podcast Network. Adam has been with me for a long, long time. I have known the man for 22 years, and he is as solid as they come. Sam Michael is our executive producer. Also want to thank Alex Pastor, Troy Mocker, and Randy Merkin for everything they do behind the scenes. Thank you for listening. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. Do it on YouTube if you like, so you can watch the interviews when I get them. And there will be more coming, I promise you, because Connor Bedard, he's just getting warmed up. Thanks for listening. I'm Dan McNeil. See you soon.